Okay, so welcome back to my channel. This is going to be a recap of Channel Zero's The Dream Door. Okay, so it's kind of confusing. I had no idea. This is actually the 4th season. It's a show that comes on the SYFY channel. And I believe it's called Channel Zero, and each season is a different storyline. And so this is season 4, The Dream Door. Okay, so first season 4, episode 1, Ashes on My Pillow. So I came across this and I was like, okay, this is a pretty good show. I'm mad I wasn't able to see the first 3 because now they're not on demand, but I'm going to have to see if I can pull it up some kind of way. But moving on. Okay, so episode 1. Jillian and Tom are a married couple. I'm not sure how long they've been married, but they've known each other since they were children. And so they move back to town and they move into his childhood home. And so they're going about the business of remodeling this home. And remember, this is a house he grew up in. And, they're dumping like bunny rabbits. So I don't know, maybe they're kind of newlyweds. They're still in their newlywed stage. I have no idea. They're just screwing all over the house, which, okay, whatever. But inevitably they head to the basement, and of course you see a lot of little boxes and old furniture and trunks of photos, that kind of stuff. And she actually found a photo of them when they were children, so they've really known each other all their lives. And so they went down to the basement because they'd heard a noise, and they found it was a dog down there. Now they're not sure how the dog got into the house, but they now have a dog. Okay. So they're going about the business of remodeling this home. And so Tom and one of his friends, they're in the house, knocking down walls and, doing, that kind of stuff. And I think that's the business that Tom has. They do construction or remodeling or something to that effect. And so while they were in the house, Jillian was in the garden, just doing what she do. And that was the first time she saw Ian. So Ian is her next door neighbor. So at this point, they do the nicety, the little nice wave, and they move on, go on with their lives. Okay, so I don't know if it was that night or a couple of nights they've been in the house. I don't know the time frame when all this stuff is happening, but they're having a dinner party, and it's his friend who's probably his business partner who was helping him remodel, and I guess that was his girlfriend, but. They're just talking, with friends do reminiscing. And Tom started talking about this character that Jillian drew when she was a kid. And that's Pretzel Jack. And she started talking about, this Pretzel Jack was basically this contortionist that she saw at a carnival or a fair or something. And then you see, she doesn't actually have the book with her, but you see kind of a flashback of her, all these little characters of him in all these different positions in this book. You remember when you were a kid and you were drawing stuff on like a photo picture on several pages, and when you flip through it, it actually looks like a moving picture. So that was basically what she was doing. And so that was the first mention of Pretzel Jack. Okay, so I don't know if it was the next day. Like I said, there's no time frame for when all these things are happening. They're at the grocery store. And she saw him talking to some woman that she had never met. She doesn't know this woman. And so, they get home. And she's going through the mail. And she sees a mail from someone named Bill. She rips the letter up. And, of course, he sees her. And he's like, okay, well, what's up? What's going on? And she was like, well, who was that lady? And then first he tried to be like, well, what lady? Who? That lady, the lady you were talking to. And he told her that it was a client who wasn't happy with the work that they had done, the remodeling they had done. And, she's unsure, a woman's intuition. She's like, okay, so, really? So she was basically like, really, that's all she's just the client? And then he said, well, I'm not your father. I'm not going to do what he did. And I'm like, oh, okay. And she asked him, did you sleep with her? And his response was, in that sense, when men do the roundabout responses, the answer is yes. He was like, well, that's not important. And if I did, it was a long time ago. And You know, he didn't say no. If I did, it was a long time ago, and it doesn't have anything to do with anything that's going on now. Okay, so he kind of walked away, and she kind of went, you know, after some time, she, found him, she was in the room, and she basically apologized. So it's some things that Jillian is dealing with that, you know, has yet to come out. Obviously, it's the first episode. And so, that night, she was having some kind of nightmare because she was hyperventilating and the lights were flickering. So it's like, okay, what the hell is going on? Okay, so the next morning, she's getting breakfast and Tom is already he's in the basement and he calls her. And so she goes to walk down there, and he tells her to stop at the top of the stairs because you have to walk down almost to the bottom before you can actually see the other side of the basement. He said, he told her to stay right there for a minute. So she's like, what's going on? He was like, describe that wall that's far off. And she basically was like, what? It's just a wall. And he's like, okay. Was there anything on it or different? She was like, is there like a picture? Or like, she's not understanding because, like I said, she was like, it's just a wall. And flashback a little bit, when they initially went into the basement, you know, they found the dog and the photos and all that. When they left, they did make a point to show you the wall that there was nothing there. There was no door, no nothing, right? And so he was like, okay, come down. And so now they're standing in the basement, dumbfounded, because now there's this door that has appeared in this house. And obviously, that doesn't happen. Not in the real world. So doors don't just appear. So now they are just basically standing there trying to figure out, okay, what the hell is going on here? So Jillian and Tom, of course, they're just standing in the basement and they're trying to rationalize it. Like, okay, like maybe this door was here and I didn't know, even though they know he grew up in that house. He sends his mother a text. His mother's like, I don't know nothing about no door. I don't know what you're talking about. There's no door. There shouldn't be a door. I don't know. There is no door. So they end up calling his friend over. And he started trying to, because they couldn't get the door open. He was like, there were no screws. There were no hinges. There was no way to get the door open. It just would not budge. And so he comes over and they're first trying to use a bunch of tools to get the door open, nothing. So he goes to his truck, the friend, and he pulls out a damn shotgun. Who drives around with a damn shotgun in their truck? Anywho, he pulls out a shotgun, and that shit was so loud. It's in the basement, so it's in an enclosed area. So that he fired off, I don't know how many rounds, and was able to get the door open. Okay, so they open the door, and it's this long, abnormally long staircase, stone staircase, look like it's stone staircase going deeper down. So they're like, okay, so they walk down and it's another door and the same thing, it was locked, but this door had a handprint on it, almost like somebody had put their hand in paint and put their hand on the door. They couldn't get the door to budge, so they end up going next door to Ian's place, and you know, it was an awkward situation. It's the middle of the night. I'm surprised nobody called the cops for all them damn gunshots that were going on at that house. That was interesting. So they go over to his house, and they basically wanted to see his basement because I'm assuming these homes have a similar layout. And so they go into the basement, and of course, no door. And he started talking about, Jillian started asking him about himself, and he's like, oh, I'm just renting from the O'Connells or something like that. And they're like, Tom and Jillian were like, oh my God, they're still alive? And he was like, yeah, well, I'm renting from them, and I think they're in Florida. I've never met them, but yeah, as far as I know, there's no door, whatever. He's like, but he also said that he would study working on his PhD in psychology, and he found it fascinating because he was like, doors can mean so many things, and if you want, I'd like to talk to you if you can. And Tom was like, yeah, whatever. Okay, but thank you for your time. We're gonna head on back to the house. So they go back to the house, and he was about to use the shotgun initially, but there was like that, but this is a smaller space, like you're in the almost in the stairwell with another door. So they're like, no, we can't do that right now. So he used whatever tools he could use, and then he pulled out the shotgun, and even that shotgun didn't do anything to the door except screw it up. I mean, it was, it was scratched up and, although you see damage to it, but the door still wouldn't budge. And so, Jillian, I guess they had all decided, Tom and the friend decided to go. I guess the friend left and Tom went on back upstairs, and Jillian was still sitting down there. And so she kind of walked up to the door and put her ear to it, and she knocked on the door, but then she walked away. And you hear whatever on the other side knock back. So it's like, okay, well, there's something in there. Something or someone in there, okay. And so the next day you see Jillian talking with her therapist, and her therapist is Abel. That's his name. And she started talking about... he started trying to rationalize it as well, saying, well, maybe it was a storage area, maybe it was, a wine cellar. She was like, no, it was too deep, and this never exists. So obviously, something happens and you can't explain it. They're trying to rationalize, okay, what it could be, and he's like, no. She was like, no. Known this man since I was a kid. There was no damn door. It's like, but at the end of the day, as an adult, we know that doors don't just appear out of thin air, so it's like, it's a tough situation to be in. And so then he starts talking to her like, oh, well, the last time you were talking about your dad. And he talked about her trust issues. And so obviously this stems from whatever relationship she's had with her father. And she started talking about Tom. And, she's been looking at the phone bill, and he's been making calls to this particular number. And then the situation with the woman in the store that he was talking to, that he said was a client who wasn't happy with the work. And he was like, well, did you tell him? And she said no, because then he's going to know that I've been looking at the phone bill. And so the therapist was like, well, you were. And he said, the one thing that can destroy a marriage and relationship is secrets and distrust. And he was basically trying to encourage her to talk to him. Talk to Tom. And so, okay, so it's the middle of the night. Well, I don't know, it's not the middle of the night, but she's just getting home. It's dark out. And he's leaving. And she's like, well, where are you going? He's like, oh, I'm going to meet, I can't remember the friend's name. To talk about something, like, I don't know if it's a job or something, I forget. And so her intuition got the better of her, and she follows him. And she follows him to this woman's house. Now, I think she did the right thing by staying in her vehicle and pulling off. Okay, we're gonna give her. Okay, you did that. But obviously, she it's fueling whatever issues that she's having as far as distrust or emotional. His behavior is exacerbating it. So it's like, yeah, she has trust issues, but then at the same time, Tom is doing shit that's making him suspect. You know what I'm saying? So, it's a fine line. It's a fine line. And so she goes back to the house, and she's about to make her drink, and she hears a noise in the basement. And so, of course, she goes down. I wouldn't have took my ass back to that house. But anyway, she goes down, and she puts her hand on the handprint, and the door unlocks. And so she opens the door, and it's just a room. And she's like, it's dark, and it's dark down there. There's no lights down there, but she has a flashlight. And so she's kind of looking around the room, and in the far off corner, she sees a figure. And this figure was looking all fucked up and distorted and all twizzled up, and started charging at her. So she screamed, and I don't know, she didn't get very far, but he walked on past her and went on what she said and left the house. And so, of course, now she's like, oh my God, somebody's in the house. So the next scene is the police there. They're searching the house. They're like, we're not sure how they got in. And Tom is like, can you leave a car outside? And the police was like, okay, just for the night. And then she looks over and she sees Ian. So she walks over to talk to Ian. And Ian was like, have you ever thought that maybe some people or some places are just special? And he was like, not the supernatural way, but and so she kind of looked kind of intrigued. He said, well, I'm sorry. I know that was kind of an off-putting question. I do that sometimes. And so she was like, oh, no, it's fine. And so they end up saying their goodbyes. Okay, so the next morning, I guess he went to work, And she's sitting at the table, and they're making the plans to do something. And again, her intuition got the better of her. So she calls the number. And it's, what's her name? Sarah Winters. So she asked who it was, she asked her if she was Sarah Winters. She said yes. And she was like, the lady was Sarah Winters, like, who is this? This is Tom Hodgson's wife. And Sarah sounded scared as shit. She was like, tell Tom to stay away from me before, basically, I call the cops or take out a restraining order. So basically, she's like, tell him to stay the hell away from me. And so, obviously, that was not the response that Jillian was expecting. And so she hung up, and now she's sitting at the table. Now, it's daylight now. So here it is, nighttime, and she's still sitting at the table when Tom gets home. And she tells him that she called the number. And he's like, what? Why would you do that? Now, rewind a little bit. In the beginning, when they first got home from the grocery store, and she asked him about the woman, and she was like, she was just a client that doesn't like to work. And it's like, if you don't believe me, we can call. So all before, you was all gung-ho about you calling to confirm your story in the beginning. Right? Or at least you pretended to be that. So it's like, okay, well, but now that she's telling you that she went on and called her, now you're looking all crazy. Like, what? Why would you do that? And he basically starts gaslighting the shit out of her, trying to make it like it's all in her mind. Now he's not her dad. He brought that up again. And, she needs to, like, it's all her problem and in her head and the whole thing. And so, he storms out. And she's like, wait a minute, where are you going? Now, keep in mind, it's dark. So, he storms out. She's standing there. And in the far off corner, you see a figure slide away. Like this figure walks away. So, this figure that we thought had ran out of the house, is still in the house. So, Tom goes back to the woman's house. And for whatever reason, Jillian goes to Tom's friend's house. And I'm like, why are you going to his friend's house? So she starts asking him about Tom and if Tom is cheating on her. And I'm like, why the hell would you go to his friend expecting his friend to ever tell you the truth? Like, now that was questionable. I have to say, that was really questionable. But he basically was like, well, no, I don't know. There's nothing going on. And so she said, well, who is Sarah Winters? And you can see his facial expression like he heard the name before. At least if he doesn't know who she is, he's at least heard the name before. And he was like, I don't know any Sarah Winters. Like, he tried to play it off, but it was too late. She already saw his expression. He's like, I don't know any Sarah Winters. And then he started getting annoyed with her, getting upset. Like, started telling her, like, Tom is not your dad, like your father. And I'm like, why the fuck does he know about your father? What is going on here? Like, Tom is... What? And then why would he have the gall to throw that up in your face about Tom not being your dad, not being your father, and basically gaslighting her again about how it's all in her head, and how he don't understand why Tom married her anyway, and how she's all fucked up and she should have got with somebody as fucked up as her, fucked up as she is, and da. So out of nowhere in the distance you see this figure appear, Pretzel Jack. And they're going back and forth and it's getting heated. And she's like, what the hell are you talking about? And what does that mean? And how, like, she's just like, what? This man he's just going off on her, right? And so, after a while, Pretzel Jack heard all he could hear. And he jumps out of nowhere and stabs the shit out of old boy. And not only does he slice and dice and Jillian, this man, he destroys this man's face. And she's standing there. I mean, all you see is blood coming up. He's stabbing this man. It just completely destroyed that man's face with that knife. And she's standing there just looking like, oh my God. And she starts screaming, stop. Okay, but at that point, the man is very, very, very dead. And so, Pretzel Jack stands up and he starts doing his whole pretzel twizzling and shit and walking on his hands and shit. And then he walks off like he's at some like vaudeville show, like he just performed, and then did this whole little thing and walks off. And she's standing there with her face all distorted and her mouth all like she can't believe what she just saw. And that's how this episode ended. So it's like, how are you going to explain why you're there? Obviously, I mean, I can't imagine everything she did. I mean, it's not like she's covered in blood. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, but it's just that was fucked up. But it was even, I was just like, how dare his friend come at her like that? Like, she was stupid for going in anyway, but like, to throw her, whatever issue she had with her father in her face, like, who the fuck are you? And why would Tom even talk to you about something like that? I mean, I can't say that, because if it's been impacting their relationship, you talk to your friends, but you don't expect your friends to throw that shit up in your partner's face. Like, that was, but oh boy is dead. And now, I mean, I guess it begins. So I'm going to end this here, and I will talk to you guys in the next episode.